For centuries, the land we know today as China was more than just a distant civilization. It was a legend whispered across continents. To the merchants and explorers of the ancient world, it was a realm of unfathomable wealth and wisdom, a mysterious empire connected to the West only by the threads of the Silk Road. While great empires around it rose and fell like waves against the shore, China endured, dynasty after dynasty, emperor after emperor, shaping the course of human history for over 5,000 years. From the construction of the longest structure ever built by human hands to wars that claim more lives than any other in history, China's story is not just one of survival, it is a saga of dominance, innovation, and unbroken continuity. But the question that echoes today is the same one that has followed this civilization for millennia. How much longer can China's rise continue? To answer that, we must travel back to the very beginning. It all began along two mighty rivers, the Yellow River in the north and the Yangtze in the south. Here, early settlers built their lives on fertile floodplains, cultivating millet and rice and laying the foundation for one of humanity's earliest agricultural societies. Yet their new way of life came under constant threat from the very waters that sustained them. The Yellow River, unpredictable and violent, would burst its banks, destroying crops, homes, and entire villages. This relentless flooding threatened the very existence of these early communities, until one man changed everything. His name was Yu, a legendary engineer whose story stands at the crossroads of myth and history. Yu's father, Gun, had spent years building dikes and dams to control the river, but the waters defied every effort. Where his father failed, Yu refused to give up. With the help of Hao Yi, an agricultural visionary credited with introducing millet to humankind, Yu envisioned a bold new plan. Instead of fighting the river, he would work with it. Together, they designed a canal-based irrigation system that redirected excess floodwater safely to the sea while preserving enough to nourish the crops. The results were revolutionary. The flooding ceased, the land thrived, and Yu, now hailed as a savior, was crowned ruler. Thus began the Xia dynasty, China's first recorded dynasty and the spark that ignited a political system that would dominate for thousands of years. Under Yu's rule, the Xia flourished. They invented stone farming tools, created a lunar calendar, and built an agrarian society that thrived in harmony with the land. Yu divided the empire into 9 provinces, each governed by loyal lords. But with time, even the greatest leaders must pass on their legacy. When Yu neared death, he sought to break tradition and appoint his minister of justice, Gao Yao, as successor. Fate intervened, Gao Yao died prematurely, and Yu's people, unwilling to let go of their beloved emperor's bloodline, insisted that his son Qi inherit the throne. It was a pivotal moment. Qi became the first ruler of China to gain power not through merit, but through lineage, a system that would define imperial China for millennia. Yet even great dynasties must fall. By the 16th century BCE, the Xia's glory crumbled under the reign of Jai, a tyrant consumed by cruelty and indulgence. Obsessed with revenge and pleasure, he waged pointless wars and ruled through fear. His downfall was inevitable. According to ancient belief, emperors ruled with the mandate of heaven, divine approval that justified their power. But when a ruler turned corrupt, heaven would revoke its mandate. And so, with bronze weapons in hand, a new force rose to challenge Jai's decaying empire. The Xia collapsed, and the Shang dynasty seized the throne. The Shang were not just conquerors, they were innovators. Unlike the Xia, they left behind written records etched into oracle bones, the earliest form of Chinese writing. These inscriptions, carved into animal bones and turtle shells, give us remarkable insight into life 3,600 years ago, from rituals and battles to royal decrees. The Shang built a society of stark contrasts. Nobles lived in luxury, enriched by a feudal system, while peasants toiled in hardship. Yet the state was strong, the military powerful, and the religious elite influential. Shells from distant shores served as currency, evidence of their far-reaching trade expeditions. Centuries later, China's dynastic story would repeat itself. Rise, flourish, decline, and fall. Dynasties would come and go, each leaving its mark. And though the names changed, from Zhou to Qin, from Han to Tang, The cycle remained the same. The mandate of heaven lifted empires to greatness and toppled them when corruption took root. The Tang dynasty, one of the most glorious in Chinese history, faced its own reckoning during the catastrophic Anlushan Rebellion. As rebel armies marched toward the capital, Emperor Xuanzong fled through treacherous mountain paths, driven mad by hunger and grief as he watched his family executed by mutinous soldiers. Meanwhile, the city of Chang'an descended into chaos, its streets drenched in blood, its palaces looted by the very people it once ruled. Centuries turned into millennia, and the dynastic wheel continued to spin. From Mongol invasions and the rise of the Ming to the final dynasty, the Qing. But in the early 20th century, imperial rule collapsed, and a new era was born, one that would shape China's future in ways no one could have foreseen. In 1912, after over 2,000 years of emperors, the Republic of China was proclaimed under Sun Yat-sen. The dream of a new democratic China flickered briefly, only to be consumed by warlords, foreign invasions, and ideological battles that would plunge the nation into chaos once again. By the mid-20th century, China had endured decades of suffering, from brutal Japanese occupation to a devastating civil war. When Mao Zedong's Communist Party emerged victorious in 1949, a new China was born, but its people would pay an unimaginable price for it. Mao's radical campaigns, such as the Great Leap Forward and the Cultural Revolution, sought to reshape society and eradicate capitalist thought. Instead, they unleashed famine, terror, and death on a scale rarely seen in human history. Tens of millions perished from starvation, overwork, and political purges. Entire cultural legacies were erased as temples burned and scholars were executed. Mao's China was not just a nation reborn, it was a society rebuilt through blood and fear. Yet even after his death in 1976, China's story was far from over. Under Deng Xiaoping, the country took a new path, embracing market reforms and opening its doors to global trade. The results were staggering. Within decades, China's GDP skyrocketed, its industries boomed, and its influence began to stretch across the globe once more. But with newfound prosperity came new challenges: rising demands for political freedom, growing discontent, and protests that would shake the government to its core. And in 1989, those tensions erupted in one of the most pivotal moments in modern Chinese history, a standoff in Tiananmen Square that would define the nation's relationship with power and freedom for generations. As the sun rose over Beijing on June 4, 1989, the air was thick with the weight of history. For weeks, students, workers, and ordinary citizens had filled Tiananmen Square, demanding political reform, freedom of speech, and an end to corruption. Their banners called for democracy, their chants echoed across the heart of the communist state, a cry not of rebellion, but of hope. But the government saw something else, a threat to its authority, and in the dead of night, that hope was drowned in gunfire. Tanks rolled through the streets, soldiers opened fire on unarmed protesters, and the square that had become a symbol of possibility was turned into a scene of horror. The massacre left an indelible scar on China's conscience and sent a chilling message to the world: that the party's grip on power would not be loosened, no matter the cost. Yet despite the bloodshed, China did not turn back. The government tightened its control, silenced dissent, and reasserted its vision of a stable, unified nation. And while political freedoms remained distant dreams, the country's economic transformation accelerated at an astonishing pace. Cities exploded skyward with glass and steel, highways carved through mountains, and technology hubs emerged from what were once rural backwaters. By the dawn of the 21st century, China was no longer just a rising power. It was a global force reshaping trade, politics, and culture on an unprecedented scale. This new China was paradoxical, fiercely authoritarian yet unapologetically capitalist, proud of its past yet relentlessly future-focused. Its people, once bound by centuries of imperial rule and decades of ideological turmoil, now navigated a society defined by rapid change and soaring ambition. And with its sights set firmly on reclaiming its place at the center of the world stage, China began to expand its influence far beyond its borders, from Africa to Latin America, from from the South China Sea to cyberspace. And that story is far from over. Today, China stands at a crossroads once again. Its power unmatched, its ambitions vast, and its challenges monumental. From tensions with the United States and territorial disputes to internal struggles over freedom, inequality, and identity, the next chapter of China's saga will decide not only its future, but the future of us all.